So, if we want to create a positive feedback loop, we have to start with manufacturing. Blue collar workers need to be able to live good lives. Blue collar workers should even earn higher wages than white collar workers. I'm talking about expectations, which is a very important aspect of high quality management in economic life. I think this is something we should take seriously, and the country should take it seriously too, because we need to make comprehensive efforts from all angles, in multiple dimensions, and keep pushing forward consistently. I've been writing articles calling for this as well. China doesn't need to keep doing the 11th five-year plan, the 12th five-year plan, and so on. We've been doing these for so many years, and while we've achieved remarkable results in so-called industrial and economic policies through these five-year plans, I think now that we've reached the level of a middle-income country and are approaching the threshold of becoming a high-income country, the most important thing for us today is to implement a plan to double people's incomes. Japan has talked about this too, and European countries have all done it. We absolutely need to implement a plan to double national income. For our five-year plans, we should also aim to triple it, focusing on improving per capita income and achieving marginal improvements. By doing this, the entire consumer society, the balance between supply and demand, and the overall model of investment and savings will naturally fall into place. As I just mentioned, only in a high savings environment can the crowding out of consumption and investment be thoroughly resolved. In a centrally planned society, there is a high savings environment. Everyone is willing to save. But behind high savings, there's actually an output gap. If you look at GDP directly, we have a gap of 13 percentage points between 18 and 5. With such a huge output gap, so much money just circulates idly within the banking system. If these savings don't flow into real industries or manufacturing, what happens in the end? They end up chasing the capital markets, buying existing assets like stocks and real estate. But these things don't generate GDP. Buying stocks is just participating in the virtual market. So why is it that, even though we have an enormous amount of money, a sea of liquidity, the issues of monetary transmission and base money are just circulating idly within the financial system? It's because the return on investment for businesses is too low, because the return on investment in our manufacturing sector is too low, and because the income level of our blue-collar workers in manufacturing isn't high enough that we can't stimulate domestic demand. If we can't boost domestic demand, then employment remains insufficient. The less adequate employment is, the less we can improve per capita income. And as a result, our purchasing power and consumption capacity get even weaker. It's a vicious cycle. So, to create a positive feedback loop, we have to start with manufacturing. We need to make sure blue-collar workers can live good lives. Blue-collar workers should even earn higher wages than white-collar workers.
Amen.
So what does that mean? It means the fundamental logic at the base of society is correct, and the entire structure of the country becomes stable. So, when it comes down to it, whether it's the German model or the American model, we can only learn from the German model or the Japanese model, right? The United States relies on financial markets and high technology, things we can't just pick up overnight. Adjusting or tracing back along the industrial or value chain, or even reverse accountability, may take 3 or 4 generations, 50 or 100 years. It's not something achieved instantly with slogans or by launching campaigns, but with consumption, that's something we can do, and improving average income is something we should do. If we want to improve people's livelihoods, the most important political issue is improving people's lives. So in this regard, I think it's extremely important for the future.
Amen.
Personally, I also hope that China will implement a national income doubling plan and truly focus on the new generation of young consumers who are rising in the next era. What should we do for them? We need to implement targeted tax cuts and benefits. As I mentioned earlier, to address the population issue, we need to provide childbirth subsidies. For these subsidies, don't we have a surplus of housing now? Houses aren't selling, right? So the government should buy these homes and provide them as residences for these families. And for those able to buy a home, we could offer interest subsidies or other forms of support. Home purchase subsidies, housing subsidies, interest subsidies, public rental housing, and low-rent housing. All of these are to help people live and work in peace and contentment. Secondly, for families with multiple children, as they enter society and need to work, they face tremendous social, work, and family life pressures. In order to help ease their burdens in this environment, our healthcare, childcare, and education systems all need to keep up. So, when it comes to general education, it should be like this. Education must never be industrialized, especially when it comes to mass education. If you're talking about elite education, vocational education, or high-end education, and you want to make differentiated choices, I think that makes some sense. However, for mass education, what we call national education, it absolutely has to be inclusive and accessible to all. So it can't be capitalized or industrialized. It should be a public good and service provided by the state. That's why education and healthcare are fundamentally inclusive services, especially in a populous country like China. So, in this kind of environment, the state needs to provide subsidies for education, healthcare, elderly care, and childcare, right? Only in this way, I think, can we really allow our young people, couples of childbearing age, and young families to finally breathe a sigh of relief. This would truly create a good environment for work and social development. Birth rate are small family structures, and the issues of fewer children and an aging population can be effectively improved, even if just marginally. This is important.